Have you ever looked through a window or drunk water from a glass? If you have, then you have used glass. Glass is a very special material that we see and use every single day. It is hard, so it protects us from the wind and rain when used in windows. It is also clear, which means we can see right through it. This transparency is what makes it so useful for things like eyeglasses, which help people see better, and for light bulbs, which let light shine out into a room. Glass is all around us, from the screen on your phone to the jars in your kitchen. It is a solid material, but it starts its life in a very different, surprising way. The magic of glass is that it doesn't really behave like other solids. Think about a block of wood or a piece of metal. They have a very organized structure inside. Glass is different. It is what scientists call an amorphous solid. This is a fancy way of saying its insides are all jumbled up, more like a liquid that has been frozen in place. This unique structure is what gives glass its special properties, like being transparent and smooth. It can be made in many different colors too, just by adding tiny amounts of other materials. We use it to build tall skyscrapers, to drink our favorite sodas, and to store food to keep it fresh. Before it becomes the hard, clear material we know, glass begins as something completely different. Its main ingredient is something you have probably played with at the beach. It's sand. But not just any sand will do. The sand used for making glass is a special kind called silica sand. It is very pure and has tiny grains of a mineral called quartz. This silica is the secret ingredient that gives glass its strength and clarity. It's amazing to think that the beautiful, smooth glass objects we use start out as rough, tiny grains of sand found in nature, waiting to be transformed by incredible heat. So, why do we use glass so much in our lives? Besides being clear and strong, glass is also very easy to clean. It doesn't soak up liquids or smells, which is why it is perfect for food containers and drinking bottles. It is also a material that can be recycled over and over again without losing its quality. Old glass bottles and jars can be melted down and made into brand new ones. This makes glass a good choice for our planet. From the simple sand on the ground to the shiny windows in our homes, the journey of glass is a truly fascinating story of transformation that touches almost every part of our modern world. To make glass, you need a recipe. Just like when you bake a cake, the most important ingredient is silica sand. This special sand makes up the biggest part of the mixture, but sand alone is not enough. It melts at a very, very high temperature, which would use a lot of energy. To make the process easier, glass makers add other ingredients. One of these is called soda ash, or sodium carbonate. Soda ash helps to lower the melting temperature of the sand, making it much easier to turn into a liquid. This saves a lot of fuel and makes the whole glass-making process more efficient. Another key ingredient in our glass recipe is limestone, which is also called calcium carbonate. The limestone is added to make the final glass product strong and durable. Without it, the glass would be very fragile and could even dissolve in water over time. The limestone acts like a stabilizer, making sure the glass stays hard and doesn't get damaged easily by chemicals or weather. Think of it as the ingredient that makes your window tough enough to stand up to a rainy day. Sometimes other chemicals are added in small amounts to give the glass special properties, like making it colored or extra strong. Once all the ingredients are gathered, they are carefully measured and mixed together. This mixture is called the batch. Getting the recipe just right is very important, as even a small change can affect the quality of the final glass. The batch is mixed thoroughly to make sure the silica sand, soda ash, and limestone are spread out evenly. Sometimes, recycled glass, known as cullet, is also added to the batch. Using cullet is great because it melts at a lower temperature than the sand, which saves even more energy. It also means we are reusing old glass instead of throwing it away. After the batch is perfectly mixed, it is ready for the next and most dramatic step, the furnace. The mixture is poured into a huge, incredibly hot oven. These furnaces can reach temperatures of about 1,700 degrees Celsius, or 3,090 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hotter than the lava from a volcano. Inside the furnace, the intense heat works its magic. The solid grains of sand and the powders of soda ash and limestone begin to melt. Slowly, the entire batch transforms from a solid mixture into a thick, glowing, honey-like liquid. This molten glass is now ready to be shaped. Once the batch has melted into a glowing, gooey liquid inside the furnace, it is ready to be formed into useful objects. This molten glass is like a very thick, hot honey, and it can be shaped in several different ways. One of the oldest and most famous methods is glass blowing. A glass blower gathers a blob of molten glass on the end of a long, hollow pipe. They then blow air through the pipe, creating a bubble inside the hot glass. By carefully turning the pipe, swinging it, and using special tools, the artist can shape the bubble into a beautiful vase, a bowl, or a drinking glass. It takes a lot of skill and practice to become a good glass blower. For making flat objects like window panes or mirrors, a different process is used. This is often called the float glass process. In this method, the molten glass is poured from the furnace onto a large bed of molten tin. Because the glass is lighter than the tin, it floats on top, spreading out to form a perfectly flat and even sheet. The surface of the molten tin is extremely smooth, so the glass becomes just as smooth. The thickness of the glass sheet can be controlled by how fast it is spread over the tin. This clever process allows us to make the huge, flawless sheets of glass we see in buildings. Many glass items, like bottles and jars, are made in huge numbers using molds. This process is great for making many identical items quickly. In one common method, a blob of molten glass is dropped into a mold. Then, a blast of compressed air pushes the glass against the sides of the mold, forcing it to take its shape. This is how most of the bottles for drinks and jars for jam are made. Another method uses a plunger to press the glass into the mold. These automated processes can produce thousands of bottles and jars every single hour, all looking exactly the same. No matter which method is used, shaping the glass must be done while it is still hot and soft. As soon as the molten glass starts to cool, it begins to get stiff and hard. This means the glassmakers have to work quickly and precisely. They use special tools like shears to cut the flowing glass, tongs to hold it, and paddles to flatten it. Whether it is a single artist blowing a unique sculpture or a giant machine pressing out thousands of bottles, the goal is the same: to give the hot liquid glass its final form before it cools down and freezes into a solid shape. After the molten glass has been blown, floated, or pressed into its desired shape, it cannot simply be left to cool down in the open air. If it cools too quickly, stresses can build up inside the glass. The outside would cool and shrink faster than the inside, which could cause the glass to become very weak and shatter easily. To prevent this, the newly shaped glass must go through a special cooling process. This important step is called annealing. The glass objects are placed on a conveyor belt that moves them slowly through a long oven called a layer. The annealing layer is hottest at the entrance and gradually gets cooler towards the exit. This allows the glass to cool down in a very slow and controlled way. By cooling the entire piece of glass at the same rate from its core to its surface, the annealing process removes the internal stresses. This makes the glass much stronger and more durable, so it can withstand everyday bumps and changes in temperature without breaking. The time it takes to anneal glass can range from about 30 minutes for a small bottle to several days, or even weeks for a very large, thick piece of glass, like the lens for a telescope. As the glass cools down through the annealing process, it completes its amazing transformation. The glowing orange liquid gradually loses its heat and its color. It becomes harder and harder until it is completely solid. And as it solidifies, it becomes transparent. The jumbled up structure of its atoms, which stayed messy even as it cooled, is what allows light to pass straight through. This is when the sand, soda ash, and limestone finally become the clear, beautiful, and useful material that we know as glass. Once it leaves the lair, the glass is cool, strong, and ready for use. Today, glass is one of the most important materials in our world. Look around you, and you will see it everywhere. It gives us windows to see outside and to let in sunlight. It provides us with bottles and jars to keep our food and drinks safe and fresh. It is used to make the lenses in cameras, microscopes, and telescopes that help us see things that are very far away or very tiny. Fiber optic cables, which are thin strands of glass, carry information across the world at the speed of light, powering our internet. From science to art to our daily routines, this incredible material, born from sand and fire, makes our lives brighter, clearer, and better.